Hey guys, been a little while since I last made a video. There'll be no real structure to this, I think, just like a debrief on what I've been working on, what I've been up to, new tools that I've discovered, new processes, and I guess changes that I've implemented in my workflow. Yeah, and just dealing with some changes going on in the world at the moment. A little bit of me like waffling on it, but hopefully you can find some valuable nuggets of information here. I'll start off with, I guess, what I've been up to. Predominantly, I've been working on this like social media marketing stuff for the crypto client. It has pretty much been full time. So at the moment, I have 11 full time staff and they are working from my apartment, like performing the activity in what I made in the last video for follow on follow for promoting various different crypto projects. We dealt with, let's just say, a ton of issues scaling, which have now been solved, fortunately, which is how I was able to find the time to create a video now, because I've literally just been 100% focused on trying to solve those issues, which were mainly around like creating accounts from scratch. It's just very slow to be able to start performing activities straight away. Yeah, we ran like a load of different tests on various different account creation methods and the best way to actually warm up accounts. We ran about 30 different tests. And anyway, we finally got there in the end. So we now have a very stable way of creating accounts and doing the promotion for this client. I actually have a call with them today, so it will be interesting to see how that goes. So that's been like the main focus for me. On top of that, I think as well, just like I should explain this as well. I think people expect me to be managing like loads of girls for OnlyFans, and I'm definitely not. I manage one girl at the moment who is just a girl that I know in real life, and she does it's just much easier for me to work that way. And she's doing about 15, probably 20K this month she will clear, which is, yeah, is really quite good. And it has like very minimal input from me, which is obviously great. So yeah, I think that a lot of people were expecting me to be running like an agency, and I was managing like girls before, but the reason that I actually decided to turn it into a course instead of pursuing the avenue myself of making like an OnlyFans agency and hiring loads of girls, there's a couple of reasons actually. Number one, I've felt that there were like just other opportunities specifically available for me, such as this crypto project, which I didn't want to go all in on the OnlyFans stuff, but I knew that it's a great business opportunity to be able to launch a subscription business without any real investment from your side at all is quite a unique opportunity. And yeah, I'm just surrounded by people literally making a ton of money off of OnlyFans, which is why for the first time ever I decided to release a course. And I think it only really makes sense for me to release a course on something if I'm not actively pursuing it myself. Otherwise, I don't know, I would just feel like there's a bit of a conflict of interest, and perhaps I find some really interesting way to grow an OnlyFans profile, but rather than, if I'm doing this myself for my own agency and I also have a course on it, I'm not incentivized to create a load of competition for myself, which is why like this scenario actually works quite well for me, where I'm just working with like very closely with one girl, and we do like testing and all of the marketing and stuff. So I'm still very much like on the ground in the trenches, and I'm able to give constant updates like in our OnlyFans Telegram group about like, the latest like things that are working for me, essentially things that are a little bit different, tests that I'm running that are working for me. And there's no feeling of regret or anything like that. I'm happy to share all of the information because I'm not too invested in the industry. Yeah, which I think for some other people who perhaps have courses and they're also actively trying to grow their own business within that space as well, either like you're shooting yourself in the foot by giving away all of your marketing strategies, or you are in fact not giving all of the information that you have to your students, to people taking part in the course. So I don't actually think either of those are the right route to do. I think it's only good to create a course on something if you have a very deep understanding of the industry and how to actually build a business there, but you're also not actively invested yourself, which is quite a unique position to be in actually, if you really think about it. with that being said as well, I guess moving on to like the next point is I've now started working on like the social media agency course. So I sold my last social media agency with, it was 130 or 140 employees when I exited, and which was a great decision for me. And I had a 6 month non-disclosure agreement. So, sorry, like a 6 month non-compete. So I wasn't, even now, like I've been running social media agencies since I was like 19 years old. So I'm not really interested of going back in like the client facing side of things, just because I feel that I have got everything out of that side of things. Let's say there have been multiple times in my life where I have been running like the largest Instagram marketing agency in the world. It's happened to me about 3 times where I will get out of it and then go into it again and create these huge companies managing like thousands of accounts. But then this last time, it was also very good to be able to actually grow a people-based business, which I had never done before, particularly at that scale. So that came with its whole set of challenges and lessons in itself. But I don't feel there's a huge amount for me to gain by doing that business again. However, I do completely respect the fact that there is an opportunity there, and I have a huge amount of knowledge on how to, in this specific area, on how to grow these businesses and grow them very quickly. That last business, we grew to 140 employees in under a year, and it hit about $1 million in annual recurring revenue in less than 90 days, which I think is quite hard to come across. So I've actually started working on like the social media agency course, and the way that I've decided is going to be best to teach that course is to create an agency myself. And the intention of this is literally just so that I'm like on the ground, like documenting the process of building this agency. Because I've been hands off for 6 months, I just want to actually it to be like a step-by-step walkthrough. So I would actually create an agency from zero, go through all of the promotion, sharing everything down to the keywords that I use in the Google Ads campaign, how the campaign is actually structured, all the other marketing channels, and just everything that I've accumulated over the years. But rather than just doing like a sit down talk through, do this and this, I've learned from my first ever course that I did on the OnlyFans business, and this is a much more complicated business to run, that it's going to be best if I do like a walkthrough. And so I will just try to grow this agency to like, I don't know, 20K a month within 30 days, something like that. And then I think I'll actually just sell the agency. Like back onto my previous point, I don't really want to be like actively invested in this, in this space myself. So yeah, it will be growing an agency purely for like demonstration purposes. So, yeah. And so then that also leads me on to another point, is courses. And so I have done about $35,000 in sales from 2 courses that I haven't even promoted. That's just me being completely like, it's not a bragging at all or anything like that. I do no marketing or promotion for these courses at all. Like they're just in like my YouTube description, and I have a couple of videos that talk about this, not even actively promoting them. Or sorry, one video talking about the OnlyFans course, and the only reason I made it was because of like requests as well. But I'm just going to tell you now, selling information is a really good business. And it's now, I had never actually done a course before, or like an information product such as this, which it now makes complete sense to me why all the marketing YouTubers and so on who end up getting like traction, or even any type of influencer, in fact, who ends up getting traction, like generally will go down the route of either OnlyFans or creating a course. And yeah, it's a good space to be in. Let's say it's nice, like passive income. Like we will take on a new OnlyFans student every day, almost, in some cases like 2 per day. That started like picking up a bit more now. Yeah, what else have I been doing? I've spent some time with my family. They actually flew out here, and I spent like 5 days with them, and I took my dad out in my 2 sports cars, and we went to the racetrack. And yeah, like my dad was always like working when I was younger, so we never actually did that much. We never really did much together. I guess that's where I get like my workaholic mentality from, is him. Like, he would work 7 days per week, getting up at 5, 6 in the morning, finishing at 11 o'clock at night. And he would do that for years and maybe take a holiday like once per year. So it was nice for him to come out here. He came with like my mother as well, and we actually had some, I guess, like bonding time is what you call it, like uninterrupted, just enjoying each other's company. Yeah. So like, while we went out to the racetrack, I took him shooting. We went out for dinner multiple times, and we went away on a little holiday to another hotel within Georgia and spent some time together there. And yeah, so I never used to feel this, like when I was younger, like the sort of power. The honest thing is, I was never that close with my family. And when I was younger, all I wanted to do was sort of get out of living at home. Whereas now, I guess I'm older, but perhaps, yeah, maturity is all it was. I feel a lot of benefit, or not benefit isn't quite the right word, but a lot of sort of motivation, and I get a lot of happiness out of spending time with my like family and the people close to me. And because I was always like very much like an introvert, very quiet, even still to this day, I'm not very open with my emotions, but I definitely get a lot of energy, I guess would be like the right word. Like, I feel very good after spending time with them now. I didn't see my parents for about 2 years because I was out here just working, and then the pandemic hit. So recently I went back to London, spent some time with them. Then I flew back again a few months later. Then they came out here, and that's been like a really positive thing in my life. Yeah. Other than that, what else have I been working on? Yeah, and like OnlyFans is just to go on to that as well. Like, I've just found that it really works great to bring in like a base income for me like every month. So you just know that like the bills are covered, which like they are anyway, but you just know that you have a nice stable income coming in. And I guess it frees up my time to work on like more risky projects. And when I say risky, I just mean projects that won't have a payoff for a slightly longer amount of time. Talking of risky projects, I'll literally just say I'm down about $150,000 in crypto, which I'm not upset about. And also, you'll notice I use the words "I'm down," not "I've lost," because fortunately I haven't lost it. I have a friend who lost about $200,000 and actually lost it on leverage trading. So let's say my crypto portfolio is down about $150,000. So I guess I'll go into like some lessons there. And the reason that I think it's quite good to say that is people are generally quite obsessed with showing off like the good life on social media, and not perhaps showing like the negatives or like the behind the scenes, or they just like showing off like the positives, is what I'm saying. If you look at someone's Instagram, it's generally like a highlight reel of their life. Yeah, I guess this is just to show you like the other side, that investing isn't always up. Personally, it is upsetting if I look at my balance that I had and then what I have now, but I'm not actually upset about it, because I still have the same number of assets and the same assets that I had then and that I do have now. The only difference is that if I wanted to trade them back into a fiat currency, I would get significantly less value than what I paid for them. But fortunately, I have no requirement to my crypto assets at the moment, and hopefully not in future either. So from that point, I'm not affected, because I have an income essentially that means that I don't need to withdraw into my crypto funds. If there was a point though where I had to sell the crypto at this price, I would be quite upset, because that is when I am actually trading in my crypto and I am taking that loss. And in fact, the one thing I will say that is quite annoying about this is I was told that this was going to happen back in December time, and going on to this Luna situation as well. I'm sure most people know. I was being told to short Luna about 2 months ago, and now I'm actually focused a lot more on sort of trying to keep my ego in check, remembering that I'm not always right about everything, and of course no one is, because there were two huge opportunities that I missed out on there. One of them cost me $150,000, and the other one cost me probably a lot more than that. So people were telling me that there's a crash coming, that it's not looking good. I don't actively look at charts or anything like that. I'm not a crypto trader at all. I'm a passive investor is the right word. However, I'm in groups with people who are active crypto traders, very active in the market. And yeah, and they were saying, we're cashing out, we're going to start moving into like USD, like we've got some bad signs and we're not sure what way the market is going to go. And I didn't listen to them, and I'm thinking, oh, no, like it's crypto's going up and it's only going up. And of course I was completely wrong and learned that it was an expensive mistake. Let's put it that way. And then the other situation was with Luna. I was being told about 2 months ago that Luna is like a massive Ponzi scheme, and Luna is like, was huge. Well, now not anymore, and this guy was saying to me, when the market cap of Luna gets close to or goes below UST, Luna will crash. And I looked at both of the market caps and there was about a $10 billion difference. So this was when I first heard about it, and yeah, or maybe it was even more than that. I can't remember. It was some like crazy amount. So I was just thinking, like, what on earth is he talking about? Like, we're miles away from anything like that happening. Okay, yes, if that happened, maybe you're right, but it doesn't look likely. Then about 3 weeks later, he posted again in the same group saying we're much closer now. And I can't remember the exact numbers. And so I looked at it again and I thought we're still miles away. And then 2 weeks later, this happened. The whole crash happened. And yes, like I believe they're saying there was like an attack, and that is what actually caused this crash. And it was done in a very smart way. But this guy was completely right, and he was shorting Luna months ago. I've got no idea how much money he made, but I imagine it was a considerable amount. Even people that got in on shorting Luna during the actual crash itself with leverage on. I saw a screenshot somewhere of some guy who turned $3,000 into 600K. Sorry, it was $300, I think it was actually, into 600K in a tweet from shorting Luna with 150x leverage or something like that. And like his reply to his own tweet was, I wish I did 3K. So yeah, people made huge amounts of money there. And I had never actually shorted a project before as well. So I was like scrambling around at the last minute, trying to get in on the action. Of course, I was miles too late and should have acted weeks ago. So I think the two lessons there are: prepare for something like this to happen again, so that if it does happen again, you're in a position to react much faster and much smarter. So the next thing that I did was set myself up to be in a position to be able to start shorting crypto projects. So I did a little test short in Binance purely for fun, just so I understood the process. I knew what shorting was. I had just never executed a short trade before. So I figured out how to do that and how to do it with leverage, etc. So that if something like this does happen again, I'm not in the same position that I'm in now, basically. So yeah, I think the most important lesson there is to always learn from your mistakes. And the second lesson, and this is another thing that I've learned so much recently, over the past year, in fact, is move with speed. Like, money moves quickly. If you don't move quickly, you will just get left behind. The speed at which, like, in some of these groups that I'm in, these high net worth people, the speed that they move at, it is like that. Now I have a little motto that I read to myself: whenever I think I'm moving quickly, I need to move 2 times faster. It needs to be like my life is in fast forward, and that there's constant activity and action happening within my life. So yeah, that was like one point. Look, I'm still like a huge fan of crypto. I absolutely love the fact that you can own your own money. I think that's a huge benefit, that like someone who's that a bank isn't able to stop you taking out money. I actually made a video on this before, which I never actually released, but yeah, talking about like the sort of state of recession that we're actually in now. I made it when I was in Dubai. And this is also something that I think about constantly. It's like I feel that I have a responsibility to actually become rich. And like the goal for me is like $10 million and multiple passports. And I think that is what actually gives you an element of freedom these days. We've got no idea, like, bearing in mind I'm in Eastern Europe, in a country that it's had a history with Russia. Russia invaded Georgia back in like 2008. Still 20% of Georgia is occupied to this day. Quite a similar deal to what Ukraine was offered, it seems. So who knows, like what can happen here. Of course, like, fingers crossed that nothing does happen, but I think that you have to be prepared for all eventualities, and you don't want to be someone who is scrambling around at the last minute in a time of crisis. Like, as an example, I'm fully stocked up on food because there is a chance that there can be a food shortage, quite a high likelihood actually, but I don't want to make this too negative, but it's just something to be prepared for. You can go down the shops now, stock up on a load of canned foods and pastas and so on, and just keep them in a spare room somewhere so that if there is an emergency, you're prepared. And the other thing that I recently purchased was like a large battery pack that can be solar powered, and it has USB chargers. It's universal plug, so you can charge a laptop off it. It's not, you can plug it into the mains to charge it as well, but it also has a solar panel if ever there was like a time of crisis. I think that's quite a useful piece of kit to have. The other thing is just keep some cash, not huge amounts of money, but just have some money, preferably in some multiple currencies as well. And also have an escape route, have an escape plan in case, I don't know, worst case scenario, missiles start landing in your city. And have multiple escape routes. So I actually did a course on OpSec, operational security, and this was actually one of the modules that they have, where you have to basically plan the evacuation and execute it, which was a fun module. I strongly suggest everyone to actually look into to OpSec as well, into operational security. I think it's a great investment of time to protect like yourself and the people around you. It's like spy, some military type exercises as well. It's mostly like spy related things on awareness, gathering information. Yeah, really interesting thing that I'm actively exploring at the moment. I've done a course on and have read a couple of books on. What else can we get into? Other than that, let's come into Notion, and I'm just going to share a couple of things I've been looking at recently. I've read a book called The One Thing. I recommend reading it. If anyone hasn't read it, I'll just give you the breakdown. It basically means figure out what is the most important thing you can do that day on this particular day, and do it, and just forget about all the other nonsense and noise. And there's like a little system in there. So I do that every single day. I figure out what is my most important task. And now my mission for every single day isn't get 5 tasks done, do this and this. It is, as long as I do the most important thing, the thing that can have the most impact in my life, I've had a successful day, and it works really quite well. It's just, again, not getting too complicated. It's applying like the 80-20 principle. And then the other thing that I love is this, it's a could do and should do list. So I go through all of my tasks. You'll see all of these are should do, because anything that is a could do task doesn't even make it into my list of things to do. It's not giving, like I've seen some really like annoyingly complicated systems like on impact, how long it takes and so on. And I just think it's like, it's too much to do, too much of a process that needs to be like constantly kept up to. So all I do, could do or should do. If it's should do, it just gets put on the back burner. I'll go through it every like week or like in my like weekly review, but other than that's it. And these are everything that I should do, things that I need to do. And then I can just give a priority through 1 to 5. Generally, I don't actually do that much anymore. But then the other thing that I've been doing as well recently, in terms of like motivational thing, is rewards. So this is the like gamification type thing. I will generally try to keep my rewards related to whatever it is that I'm working on. So for example, to support what I'm working on, if that makes sense. So at the moment, I had a daily goal of walking 10,000 steps, and I set myself a reward that when I walk 10,000 steps 5 days in a row, I can get a pair of, there was like some trainers that I saw in Dubai that I liked. It's going to depend on your budget, but that's like it's a reasonable reward for me. I am happy to spend $150 to reward myself for walking 5 days in a row, doing 10,000 steps. And then when I do it for 30 days, I have a slightly bigger reward. And it's essentially just a way of building habits. And humans build habits really well when they are rewarded. I get motivation from it, and it just keeps pushing me forward. And when you are buying things that are supporting your goals, that's my point. So I've walked 5 days 5 days in a row. Now I get the shoes that I want. Now I get to go out and walk out in my new trainers that I wanted. And then you can keep building on that. So I also do that in work. I try to continue making my work a more and more pleasurable experience as I make more money. In work, maybe it's not the best example, because actually my most recent findings are that less is more when it comes to your workspace. But like an example here would be like buying AirPods Max and also having a pair of AirPods next to me. It's unnecessary. However, it makes the experience for me of working more pleasurable. I can't even show them now, but I recently bought like some Philips Hue. It's like a top light that changes color. It was about $700 or something. So again, completely unnecessary, but it makes my experience of working more pleasant. I've also been looking at like the Apple XDR display. So just invest in your workspace, like rather than me rambling on about all the things I bought, invest in your workspace to have a more pleasurable time, which is actually an investment in yourself so that you spend more time working and should end up making more money. Yeah. And then, so I've just got basically loads of different rewards. And then based on my like reward size, I will link into a task. If it's like less than $50, I can say, okay, once you do some little task, bearing in mind I value my time these days at about $500 per hour. Before it was at about $250 per hour. Now it's more like $500 per hour. So if there's a task that I know that I should do, but I'm feeling unmotivated to do, but I know it is worth me investing my time in, if I go in and put on some little $50 reward, something that I want, and attach it to that task, and I say, as soon as I complete this task, I'm going to go and buy that thing that I wanted, I find that I get more things done. So yeah, it's very basic, but yeah, really, it's very effective for me, which is why I'm sharing it with you. So should do. I don't apply rewards to everything, by the way. It's only if there's something that maybe it's been on my to-do list for a while, a couple of days, and I know that I should be doing it, but for whatever reason, it's not an attractive task. I will make it attractive with a reward. So this is a rewards database. I constantly add to it all the time, and to add a reward, I can just come here and I can just put Clinique. This is a redness cream for my face, and I just attach that reward, and then it disappears from there. So these are all unassigned rewards at the moment, and I've got some big rewards in here, by the way, if anyone's I've got things all the way up to buying a McLaren 720S, buying like holidays. I've got like all trip to Austria, trip to Switzerland, Costa Rica, I think it's pronounced. One and only Montenegro. There's like a $2,000 per night hotel. So this is also a sort of like the bucket list dump as well. And like there's a $2,000 per night hotel. So it will be something like when my net worth hits 2.5 million, I'm going to go and spend 3 days in this extravagant hotel, or like Portofino or wherever. So this is, and what I actually do is whenever I see a place to go to on Instagram, I don't know if other people do this as well. If you see something that you like, not that I even use Instagram anymore, actually, that's another point. I've deleted it on all of my phones. But what I was doing is when I find some place, something that I like, I find it on the internet, somewhere I want to go to, I'll screenshot it, put it in here, and this is now in my bucket list, and it will be assigned to a project or to like a high level goal in my life, depending on the size of it, and it will get done eventually. So this is like these things in here, like that are life goals of mine, they are actively integrated into my system and being completed. Now I'm going to share one other thing as well, actually. I strongly encourage everyone to integrate something like this into their life. This is a weekly review. It's a template. So what I will do is update my weekly accomplishments. I will type out everything that I accomplished this week whilst it's fresh in my head. Type out my disappointments. I'll also add that up here. And the reason that I do this up here is because it's a field that is integrated in my monthly tracking and my yearly tracking. So I can very easily get a high level overview when I look at my entire year. What are all the accomplishments I had this year? What are all the disappointments I had this year? That's why we do it up there. And then over here, I write out my like noteworthy highs in the 3 main areas of my life. So that will be health and fitness, basically, which is my key focus at the moment. Cherries are for women, and of course for finance. So I will just write out what are my achievements in each of these areas. What did I do to push myself forward? Lows and struggles, anything that I was like struggling with, what was causing me stress. And then this is outlining the problem. And then we come in here to find a solution. Can I add something in daily tasks, implement processes to improve this? Can I add a task here? Can I add in a new habit to help me solve any of the things that I struggled with this week? What did I learn this week? In fact, it's a bit of a waste of time. I might delete that because, yeah, I just don't think it's necessary. Like, I read every single day, and I think I fell in love with, actually, that I'll talk about now. Kindle, it's like a $320 Kindle. It's like the best one they have, but I'm absolutely in love with it. I'm reading every day at the moment, taking notes. They're automatically synced over to Notion. Brilliant tool. I still love paperback books as well, but we can definitely say I've been converted into a Kindle user. Now I have my pipeline, and these are just some little quotes I'll chuck around my Notion system, basically. inbox to zero, go through all my emails, go through saved and starred emails, messages, WhatsApp, messages replied. This is another little app I'll introduce you to now. This is a beta only tool at the moment that I was able to get access to. And this has all of my accounts. It's got my Discord. It's got, and sorry, so that's another thing. I mentioned that I deleted Instagram. The way that I was able to do that is the only reason I ever used Instagram was for direct messages. This has all my direct messages here. And so I was able to delete Instagram. This is an inbox. It's also got my LinkedIn on there. It's got both my WhatsApps, but it's got my Telegram, my iMessages, my Slack. You can also add some other things on there. I can categorize by health, OnlyFans, dating. Like, this is a centralized inbox for everything. And if anyone's used Superhuman before for emails, this is something like Superhuman. You've got all the shortcuts assigned to the keys and so on. Really great tool. In fact, the only issue, it's in beta as well, so it's like it's expected. The only issue is that sometimes it will take a couple of hours to pull in my Telegram messages, but everything else seems to be instant. But yeah, amazing tool. It's called Text. I can get my messages on WhatsApp down to zero. It's so much easier with this tool now just by archiving it. Same with Slack. I can literally blaze through all of my platforms so easily. Then I go through like my tasks that are waiting on something, that can be either waiting on me or waiting on someone else to get back to me. Review my projects. I can't open this because this project contains all my ideas and things that I'm working on, like my future projects that I want to get started on. Speaking of future projects as well, I talked about doing like an NFT as a way of investing into a business, but I found out that it would be classified as a security, and there just becomes all types of like legal stuff around it that just makes it not worthwhile to do, really. But I was really interested in having, I thought it was a great idea and a really interesting project, but unfortunately there's just still so much like regulation tied around it. And so anyway, this contains all my projects, so I'll just go through them, and if a project is completed, I'll tick it off as complete. I will also make sure that I have a task set for each of my projects for this week to make sure that I'm pushing my projects forward. If there's an idea that I had that I'm now starting to work on or something, I will set the status to active. Clean my downloads folder, great habit. Now I have a really clean Finder. It's just much nicer environment to work in. Go through my notes. Check iPhone screenshots. I don't know if anyone has this habit as well, but I would literally screenshot everything, and I had 7,000 screenshots at one point. Not everything, screenshot things that I find valuable, but they would just sit in my photos and nothing would ever happen with them. Now, every single week, I go through them, pull them into my Notion system. The first ever time that I did this, in fact, it took me months to actually get through those 7,000, but now I just go through it every single week. It's very manageable, great habit. It takes about 10 minutes to do, and it brings in a ton of value to my Notion system. So anything that any articles I found were interesting, any products I found that I want to explore, any software, whatever, any YouTube video, whatever it may be, I now go through my screenshots and I go and pull that into my Notion system to define the next action that I need to take on it. As well, going through iPhone notes. Generally, I don't use iPhone notes that much. I generally put my notes straight into Notion, but sometimes like I'll still leave notes on my phone, so I'll go through them, delete anything that's no longer relevant, and pull it in here. A few other habits as well. Go through all my open pages in Safari. I'm sure many other people do this. You'll have 100 or 200 tabs open in like Safari. So I will go through both of my phones and I will go through all of the tabs that I have open. Is there something that I want to explore further here? If so, add it into the Notion system. If not, close it, and I will get my tabs down to zero. The other one is I love testing new tools and software. So I have a bad habit of just adding in or being overwhelmed with Chrome extensions. This maybe could be moved into my monthly review. I'm not sure it needs to be done every week. Here was like a prioritization system for me. If you could only work 2 hours per day, what would you do? If you could only work 2 hours per week, what would you do? And they're just a different way of framing how you look at things. Like Parkinson's law, is it? I think it is Parkinson's law, which basically means that any amount of time that you assign to something, the task will fill that amount of time, which is why like whenever you had an exam or something for school and you didn't do any work on it, and then you only had 48 hours left to finish this huge project that you were meant to finish in like the whole summer, but you can end up doing it because you really apply yourself and get it done. So this is just a way to try to sort of counter that, to really, like we were talking about earlier, the prioritization system. if I could only work 2 hours per day, what is it I would actually focus on? And if I could only work 2 hours per week, how would I manage that? And the answer is through delegation and automation. So that gets me to think in a slightly different way. So I only have 2 hours to work this week. These are the projects that I need to get done. These are the tasks I need to get done. How am I going to do that? And yeah, I really enjoy that type of thought process. We're talking about prioritization here, or even like ruthless prioritization, which usually means deleting a lot of tasks. Go through task lists, remove anything unnecessary, duplicate, no longer relevant. What tasks are like don't belong in tasks? Should they be in notes or scattered throughout our system? What are the tasks that have the largest impact if I complete them? What are the tasks that have the least impact? Do I really need them? What are the tasks that take less than 15 minutes to complete? If it takes less than 15 minutes to complete, I would generally just try to knock them all out as part of my weekly review. And anyway, I've just closed my what tasks can I outsource? Yeah, schedule tasks, task lists, link habits to reward based on consistency, not outcome. That's another great point. And a mentality shift that I really like. Generally, when we're completing habits and completing things, there's an element of judgment to it, but you know when you're heading in the right direction. For example, if I go to the gym 7 days per week and I eat clean 7 days per week and I don't have a six pack, it's, of course, I haven't got a six pack because I've only been doing it for 7 days. However, if I continue on that path and I'm able to continue on that path, it is a matter of time of whatever, 4 to 6 months probably before I actually achieve that goal. And that applies, like the gym is just an example. That applies in business as well, so much in marketing and sales, especially. Like you should be rewarding based off of consistency. When you are taking the steps in the right direction and doing it consistently, that is what you reward based off. And at least that's how I structure my system, because the payoff from getting the six pack or making all of the cold sales calls or building the automation or like whatever it is, or making like the YouTube video, for example, the payoff comes over a longer term. Unfortunately, I'm in a position where I can reward myself with a smaller amount of like immediate gratification to get a long-term payoff. So for example, if I have a task that, let's say it makes me $1,000, I will assign maybe like a 20% of that to the reward. So I will buy myself like a $200 reward to motivate me to do it. And then I know that like I get the long-term payoff of in a week or in a month or something, I get that $1,000. So yeah, it's rewarding based on consistency and not outcome. Don't worry about the outcome. As long as you're consistent with your actions, you do need an element of judgment to this, because of course you have to be taking the right actions and know what the right actions are and be heading in the right direction. And as long as you know that, which hopefully your prioritization system puts you in the right direction, then I think it's really quite safe to reward based on consistency, not outcome, which keeps you motivated, because life is up and down, but as long as you can remain consistent on working towards your goals, you in my opinion anyway, you will achieve them. That's my like weekly review. I also do a monthly one, a quarterly one, and a yearly one, as well as a daily one. Yeah, what else? I'm going to show you a little tool as well here. This is a really interesting tool. So this is a tool called Descript, and what this allows you to do is edit videos based off of text. So here we have an example of a video I recorded that I haven't released of growing a company to 130 employees. So this is done automatically by me just dropping the MP4 file. It will automatically get all of the text. Also, if you have a podcast, this is amazing, actually. If you have a podcast and I have multiple cameras, it will learn the voice of each of the podcast guests, and you can assign a specific camera to each guest. And when that person starts talking, Descript will automatically put the correct camera on for you. So for anyone running a podcast, like, I think this is just a mind-blowing piece of software. And I find it so much easier. I'm a bit annoyed because I actually bought Final Cut Pro for £250, but I just prefer this. It's so much easier to edit. They're different tools. So like Final Cut Pro still has its use case, right? But it's so much easier to just edit off of text. Now you can also do shorten word gaps. I can remove filler words, or if I repeat myself, or if I add in filler words, it will just cut it all out. Then we can also get really interesting. Some people have seen them on like TikTok or on Instagram Reels. That was made with this. So what we can do is put in fancy captions, I think it was. Yeah. So here we come in, and this will automatically. So we can do something like this. It doesn't need a background, I think. So yeah, in 10 seconds, I've made like quite a professional looking like text here. And you can also put in, I think it's called a progress bar. Yeah. So it will go along. And so this just works really well if you're trying to create like short videos for TikTok and Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Like this is an amazing tool. I literally just come here, highlight this text, share, export as MP4. And I've just made a 60-second short video in about 60 seconds. So amazing piece of software. Like I absolutely love it. Other software I mentioned about already is Text. And I've also been playing around with Fantastical just in for the purpose of having like more structure throughout my work day. But I won't talk about that yet because I haven't quite ingrained it into my workflow. Other than that, what else is happening? We're doing some other like testing for some OnlyFans agencies on Tinder, and like a new TikTok strategy we're playing around with. It's all for very early stages. I'm focused mostly at the moment on fitness and making money, working on like multiple different projects and enjoying it. In fact, that's another point I'll go into, is like a massive lesson that I've learned recently, is just limit the amount of stuff that you have on your plate. You can't feel that you are able to like take on everything. Things just pop up in real life. Things happen that pull you away from your projects. You're not as productive as you hope to be on a particular day, whatever it may be. Now I'm really quite limited and quite ruthless in terms of the number of projects I will allow myself to take on during any point in time. And I'm trying to limit it to about 2 or 3 projects, to be honest. I think when you spread yourself too thinly, it ends up having a negative impact on the project. And also I would at least feel like I've let down like myself a little bit. Like I wasn't able to give something my best because I was too thinly spread out across multiple different projects. But yeah, that will be my closing thought. Actually, what am I doing closing this video? Let's go into habits. This is a habits tracker that I've made, and I'm just going to go into one of my like favorite habits that I do every single day. And this is like mindset shaping. Come in here. So I'm just going to walk you through this every single morning. At least I try to. Most mornings I will open this up. I will go through and read through this. This is like let's call it like affirmations, like law of attraction thing. So I will just read these out loud, and I find I have a much better day when I do this. So I don't want to get into anything too spiritual, but I believe very strongly that we can even look at this as more of like a realignment on my goals, just reminding myself this is what I'm doing, reaffirming that in my mind. I will read these every single day, often multiple times. I like read through it multiple times. And we can almost say this is just like a personal mood board of mine. So decide what matters most, decide when you will do what matters most. It's a very simple but effective strategy. This is like from the Wolf of Wall Street. You've got to bump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. This is such a great scene, and it just sort of reminds me to keep pushing. When I think I'm doing well, I bump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. This is a scene from like Pirates of the Caribbean, which I start playing from 1 minute and 3 seconds. Don't worry, this isn't all videos and stuff. There's actually some other useful information, but I thought I'd just share my thought process behind this. This is a scene from Pirates of the Caribbean where Jack Sparrow is like, he's on a sinking boat and he just steps on so perfectly. And for me, it's a reminder. I will only ever watch up to that point and just he has such a good attitude. Like, of course, Johnny Depp is like a brilliant actor, but like the attitude of Jack Sparrow is that things are never going quite right for him. He's on a sinking boat, but he couldn't look more happy and positive, almost as if nothing is going wrong. And I just love that attitude, that he's just so used to it even, and he just gets on with it. And I think that's a great way to go through life. So that's why I watch every day. It's even when everything feels like it's not going well, like it's falling around, it's like falling down like around me and everything's going wrong. I'm putting out fires all over the place. Having a Captain Jack Sparrow attitude, I think, is like a great way to go through life and just not be worried about his ship sinking, and he just continues on with his day, on to the next problem, basically. And then there are just some like things that I see, even some entertaining things. I actually have a habit to make myself laugh every single day. I find I have a much better day when I laugh. And these are like some motivational quotes and stuff that, not motivational quotes, just things to reflect upon. It can be points of advice, it can be quotes from famous people, just things that I find interesting. Feel free to pause if you want to go through and read over any of them. Yeah, but just generally things that I find interesting in life. And the purpose of this is me shaping my mind, my identity. These are things that I found that before would just sit in my phone, as I was talking about, in my photos, screenshots that I've taken, and I would never read over them. Now, every single day, I read all of these things, and I think naturally it has an effect of me trying to live following these principles because I'm absorbing them daily. First thing even some advice from Dan Bilzerian here: don't get stuck in the comfort zone. Most people need more suffering in their life. And the thing that's great about Notion, of course, is that we can have videos as well. We can have all types of different media formats. You only have 3,000 weeks left to live to make it to 80. Make them count. Again, just thought-provoking quotes, let's say. Again, little graph of how compound interest works. So like compounding gains if I improve myself by 1% every single day. And then this is going to be a ton of quotes. I won't bother. I won't read them all out. Feel free to pause them. I'll maybe pick out some great ones. These have come from all different types of sources, from me listening to podcasts, me reading books, from groups, advice from friends, advice from YouTube videos, all types of things. And a great one is, when given a choice, take both. If you can't win, change the rules. If you can't change the rules, then ignore them. Yeah, I really love that one. The faster you move, the slower time passes. If you think it is impossible, then it is for you. Again, all about mindset. Fail early, fail often. Without a target, you'll miss every single time. These just little pieces of information that I really I like to apply in my day-to-day life. Ego is not your amigo. There's no such thing as problems, only situations. Yeah, this just like literally goes on forever, but I strongly encourage everyone. I think it's one of the most powerful habits that I have, is just to go through this. And I'm constantly adding to this, by the way. When I do my weekly review every single week, I will add more and more pieces of information, videos, screenshots, whatever it may be. Anything that I look at and I think that is an interesting piece of advice, maybe I want to live my life like that, I want to apply this to my own life, gets added in here. And every single day I go through and read this. Even look, Mayweather, who I'll be completely honest, I'm not a huge fan of. If you look at him in the sort of like show business, with the way he sort of shows off in certain ways, but him giving some just fantastic advice here, that saying if you've got a 9-to-5 job, then you commute an hour to work every single day, you haven't got time to be spreading like negativity on someone's Instagram posts. Like, your priority needs to be going and like finding a way to make money. And I think it's so true. Some quotes from my favorite film. In fact, if people are interested, I will share this document for free. Like, I've spent quite a long time building this up, but I'm absolutely happy to share it if people are interested to do this. But I strongly suggest you build one of your own ones and just take all the advice and all the things that the highlights you've made in books where you felt that this was a great piece of information and you wanted to apply it to your life but never did. Build out something like this, go through and read it every day. I can't recommend it enough. Anyway, I'm getting tired. It's 9 o'clock, which means it's time for me to go to bed because I'll be up early tomorrow. So we will end the video here. Thank you so much for watching.